Hello, my name is Miss Loneman, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the second grade live lessons that I've created and to introduce myself. I'm a trained Waldorf teacher. I studied at the Sunbridge Institute where I graduated, and then I went on to teach at the Green Meadow Waldorf School in New York. I interned for a year, and then I took my class from first through fourth until my first son was born. And after my son was a little older, I began teaching in the community there for the homeschool students, and I taught third again. I've taught third 3 times, and I taught fourth, fifth, and sixth, as well as handwork and ceramics, gardening, and singing. Now, before I became a Waldorf teacher, I was a trained artist. I have a BFA, which is a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and my concentration was in ceramics. So I love to make things out of clay, and I also love to make things with fibers and to grow things. And I found that Waldorf education was a great fit for me because I love to learn and teach, and I love to use my hands. And for you, dear students, in Waldorf education, you create a lot and use your hands a lot. You make your own books, which are unique to you. So you'll illustrate and you'll write, and then at the end of the class, the unit, you will have your own book that you made, and you can look through and read to your friends or yourself or your family. I'm going to show you some of the supplies that you'll need to create your books. These are block crayons, and I have a crayon case holder, which you could make or purchase, but you might also have it in a tin or in a box. So you'll need a set of rainbow colors of block crayons for your drawing. You'll need different colored pencils, the thin ones, they're best for writing. I like the brand Lyra, and you'll use these. You'll want a pencil sharpener as well for your writing, not for the illustrations. And then for form drawing, or for any little details in your illustrations, you'll need some stick crayons, different colored stick crayons. And then, last but not least, you'll need a book. These are morning lesson books. They have different colored fronts. You can decide which colored front you want. And spiral is really nice for being able to flip through them, better than the staple. And those are the supplies that you'll need to make a book. You'll also need a blank, smaller book. I call this our spelling book, where we're going to write down some spelling rules and patterns that will help you in writing your own compositions and in your spelling. So you'll need one of those. And I'm wondering if you love stories as much as I do. I love telling stories. I love hearing stories, and I love sharing stories. And in each lesson, there will be a story, and then the next class will review that story and then have another new story. And based on those stories, that will inform what we're going to draw and what we're going to be learning about. One of the lessons is form drawing. And if you've had Waldorf education in first grade, you're familiar with forms and drawing on paper. And for this class, you could either have a book or loose paper. Either one works. And in the class, every day there'll be a story. And perhaps there's a little movement. A mouse is running up a mountain, up and down each peak. And we'll work with that movement, big and small, and then the form rests on the paper. That's why I like to say that we then take our stick crayons and leave the silvery trail of the snail. And I will encourage you in form drawing to do your forms big and small and with lots of movement and different materials. So you might take a stick into sand or mud and try to draw your form, or take a piece of chalk on a sidewalk. You can roll up wax or plasticine and make it. So whatever dough, you can make dough, whatever way it's going to be fun for you to practice the form before you do your final one in your book, I'd encourage you to do. Another group of lessons I'm going to show you picture is math, and there's different areas of math in second grade, and I focused on the times tables, something that you're going to need throughout the years, and that was introduced last year in first grade. You might have counted by 2, 4, 6, 8, and now you're going to learn how to write the sentence. 2 times 1 is 2, and then how to make a beautiful geometric drawing. So math also has a beautiful artistic quality. I'm going to show you the 7 times table. And you will create a drawing for each times table, 2, 3, 4, up to 12. And then you will write the math sentence. And with that lesson, there will also be movement and practicing through skip counting and the sentence, different ways to help you memorize these and also enjoy the beauty of math. So we have form drawing and math, and then another lesson, I'll call them blocks, which means there will be a block of classes, 10 to 12, that you can watch. And I've set them up so that you watch it all the way through. And if you need to, you can, of course, pause or go back and watch it again. And then the next class builds on the class before. So the next class will review the story and what we've learned, and then we'll have a new story, and then we'll continue that way. So the drawing will be from the day before, and then we'll have a new spelling or language pattern. That's how the language art classes go. And I'll show you an example of a fable. And a fable is an animal story. And these animals often need to learn something. And through a story, an experience that happens, they learn a moral lesson. So this is an example of one of the drawings. This is a lion, and the lion is caught in the hunter's trap, a net. And here is this little meek mouse. And I wonder if the meek mouse is going to help this brave, lordly lion, the king of the jungle, and how that will be. And you'll find out in the fable lessons. And this is an example of something that you'll draw with your block crayons, and then there will be writing on the next page. Another set of lessons in second grade is the saints. And the saints is one of my favorite blocks because we hear stories of humans that walked the earth but put others before them. So they are always very connected to the heavenly realm. And they might offer food, they might offer warmth or clothing to humans or also to animals. Saint Francis was able to speak to the animals and even help a village handle an unruly wolf. So the saints have this special quality of always putting others before them. And this is Saint Martin. And you may have made a lantern before and gone out into a cool, dark night of November and sang the song of Saint Martin. And often the saints have a celebration day, their birthday. For example, Martinmas is when you take your lanterns out and sing. Santa Lucia Day is a day where buns are passed around and there's a beautiful crown of candles lit on the oldest child's head. There's also St. Francis Day, and you might put your shoes out for St. Nicholas Day and receive a little treat. So we'll learn of a group of saints that were always doing deeds for others and became known for that. And often there's something miraculous that happens. Something's transformed. For example, rolls turn into roses is one thing that happened in one of the stories that you'll hear. This is an example of the writing. So you'll practice. We'll learn lowercase if you haven't already. That's the first lesson, is practicing the lowercase, learning a little sign language and a song. And then we will write our composition on the other side of the drawing that just tells about the picture, about the person, what they did. And I would encourage you children to write your own compositions. I'm going to give you what you can write, but you can always write more. It's really great to be able to take what you've learned and then write it out there. And I'd also recommend not to worry about the spelling just yet. So just put your ideas down, and then you can go back using your spelling book that will have some new rules for you, and you can see where you can change your spelling and an adult can help you. Okay, I'm going to move on. Another lesson is heroes. Heroic means courageous, and there are many people on the earth now, or that have walked the earth before us, that have done heroic deeds, and they have been very courageous and brave to make something change for the better, for humans and for the animals or the planet Earth. Some fought for justice and equality to make sure that all people had the same rights and were treated the same. Others went into the rainforest and wanted to save the trees or the animals. So here's an example. This is Jane Goodall, and she's dear to me. When I was in high school, I read her biography, and I wanted to go to Africa and study just like her. She grew up in England, but had a fascination with monkeys. And through hard work, she was able to go to Africa and live in the jungle and observe the chimpanzees and the apes and gorillas, and became friends with them. They became close with her. She even named them. And through her work, she wrote books, and she went out and spoke. She lectured, and she was able to create a foundation that protects their habitat. And by habitat, I mean their home. They live in the forest, so she wanted to make sure that the trees and everything that they needed to live stayed intact. And we will work on, just as in all the other language arts, a drawing and then writing. And you'll see as the classes progress, the writing becomes longer. And it just depends. Each student has a different previous experience with writing, so you might write more or you might write a little less. And we're writing with our thin colored pencils. So this is about Jane Goodall. And there are lots of heroes, so I had quite a task of picking who to speak about, because there's so many wonderful people that have done great things for all. Another lesson is science. There'll be a group of lessons on science. And by science, we're looking at the natural world or phenomena. So one example would be, we will hear the story of a seed and its life. It's actually a nut seed and how it transforms. We'll hear about the life cycle of a monarch butterfly. We will look at, this is the story of the fire keeper, and his name is One-Eyed Open. His task was to make sure that the fire stayed lit throughout the night, every night. That was his job for the villagers where he lived. And one night, he falls asleep and a big wind comes through. And this is a basket. They were basket weavers, people of this village, and it's lined with clay, because the clay kept any little tiny seeds from falling out through the woven baskets. And you'll hear what happens to that clay once it meets fire. So we'll look at how some materials are transformed in science, and weather as well is another topic. This is a drawing that you'll create and some writing. So all of the lessons will begin with a verse and end with a verse. So they're like bookends. We've started something, we've worked, and we've completed it. And after the verse, we'll have a poem. Poetry is really important. And we'll have a little movement activity. Then we'll hear a story. We'll review the story from the day before. We will do our drawing, our writing, and then we will also have a language arts, lesson. Each day there will be a new spelling pattern or rule that is brought. So for example, we'll start out reviewing things from first grade. So you might remember Magic E, and how Magic E has the vowel say its name. Instead of saying it says I. So this would say I'd, ride. So we'll look at some Magic E words using all of the vowels, and then that will just continue, that each class there will be a new lesson, and that's going to help you with reading and with writing. And I hope that you find it's a fun activity. I love playing with language and words and rhyming and finding words that work under these rules, words that maybe all say the k sound at the beginning or end. So we'll play with language a lot through the blocks. So second grade has form drawing, math, the times tables, fables, saints, heroes, and science. So there's a lot to do in second grade, and I really love the second grade year. It's a curriculum that I think is really fun. There's Anansi is a spider. We'll hear about one of my favorite characters, very funny. Sometimes the tricks that Anansi plays backfire, and sometimes they come out good for Anansi. So I'm looking forward to this journey ahead in second grade, and I can't wait to see you. Thank you for this opportunity. Goodbye, and thank you.